3 true scary horror stories. Number 1. Unexpectedly.
I had just moved into a new home and it seemed like a dream come true. The house was perfect, with spacious rooms and a beautiful yard outside. I couldn't believe what a great deal I got. I was told that the previous owner had to move away unexpectedly and wanted to sell the house fast. Everything was going great, until one night when I heard strange sounds coming from the attic. I tried to ignore them at first, but they kept getting louder and more persistent until finally I had to go investigate. I slowly crept up the stairs leading to the attic, and as soon as I opened the door, I saw something that made me freeze in fear. A large creature hovering in midair, its eyes glowing red with hatred. I knew instantly that this thing was not of this world, and it looked like it wanted something. The creature was tall, dark, and menacing with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through my soul as it stared at me. It made no sound, but its presence was terrifying enough to make me back into the corner until the creature disappeared into thin air, leaving a chill down my spine that lingered long after it vanished from sight. I've never believed in ghosts or spirits, but this was pretty convincing. I looked around the house the next day to see if there were any way that someone was pulling an elaborate prank on me, but found nothing. The next few months were filled with terror for me, as I quickly became aware of the creature's presence in my home. It would follow me wherever I went, watching my every move with an eerie intensity that left me feeling powerless against its strength. On top of all this, strange things started happening around the house. Furniture being thrown around by unseen forces and objects disappearing only to reappear somewhere else. Nothing seemed safe anymore. For months these incidents went on, and gradually intensified, as if whatever spirit lived within those walls wanted me gone. Yet despite how scared I was, and how much terror filled every corner of what used to be a safe place, I was stubborn and refused to leave. But finally, one day, something pushed me over the edge. While I was sleeping, something grabbed onto both sides of my head with such force that it woke me up. I was screaming, and tears were streaming down my face. Right there, in front of me, stood that same dark figure, staring with those unearthly eyes, ready to take another victim into its arms. Then it faded away. Right then, I decided it was time to move out before things got any worse. I grabbed some of my things quickly, while keeping an eye out for any signs of movement from above, terrified that whatever force was controlling this creature might appear again. The next day, I found a realtor to sell the house. I just told her I wanted to sell the house fast, as I had to move away unexpectedly.
Number 2. The bed.
I had just moved into my first place on my own and was in the process of arranging everything. The door that led into my apartment locks itself when it closes. So, one day, I went to the entrance of the complex to get my mail while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while looking at the mail and talking on the phone. I dropped the phone on the floor and it landed under the bed, so I had to stretch to pick it up. I saw something that caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked back the urge to scream. The man under my bed was lying still, with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face. But I didn't think he saw me. So many thoughts rushed through my head. As I picked up the phone, I said, "Sorry, I dropped the phone, I'll call you back." The bathroom is right by my bed, so I quickly walked in, quietly locked the door, turned the shower on, and jumped out my window. I dialed 911 and they told me to wait nearby, but to go across the street if I see anyone come out of the apartment. This was during summer and it was still light outside, so I hid across the street, crouching behind a car, while watching my open bathroom window and the front door. I called my boyfriend, and he got there just before the police. I gave them my keys and they rushed inside. Only moments later, 2 cops came out, holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy as he stared at me. The policeman that had stood with me while the rest of the police searched through my house told me that the man was standing outside my bathroom with one of my kitchen knives waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow slipped in my door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be homeless, and he was placed in a mental hospital. My boyfriend moved in with me the very next day.
Number 3. Fight or flight.
My heart was pounding as I hurried down the street. It had been a long day, and all I wanted to do was get home and get some rest. But something didn't seem right. I felt like someone was following me, watching my every move. I glanced behind me, but there was no one in sight. Maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me? No matter, I needed to keep walking to make it home before dark. But then suddenly he appeared out of nowhere, a tall, thin man with a menacing look in his eyes that sent chills up my spine. He started walking faster, keeping pace with me as if daring me to run away or challenge him. Without thinking twice, I picked up speed and ran the rest of the way home without looking back. I reached the safety of my building, and my hands were shaking as they fumbled for my keys. I was desperately hoping that no one would come after me. He knew where I lived. But when I finally opened the door, there stood another man inside waiting for me. In shock, I realized that it was actually someone from work, someone that had been watching me for weeks. He must have known I was at work, broke into my apartment, and waited there for me. He had an evil smirk on his face that made me freeze solid from fear. This must be what they call fight or flight. I stood frozen until I realized that this could be an opportunity for escape if only I could get past them both. With perfect timing that probably saved my life, my neighbor opened his door and I gathered onto every ounce of strength I had and sprinted towards freedom down the back stairs. While running, I screamed for my neighbor to call the police. Luckily, it worked. By some miracle, I was able to get away. To this date, nobody knows exactly what happened to those guys that night. The police showed up and searched the area, but they never found them. I later found out that the coworker that had broken into my apartment had been fired the night before after he brought a knife to work.